how our studio is set up. So I have a quick slide I want to show you guys to show you all the cameras in this studio. The camera I'm using right now is actually an auto tracking camera from HuddleCam HD. And this camera is connected to our system via SDI. So I want to show you guys how cool this camera is because it can track me anywhere I go in my production. So let's take a look at this camera quickly on the back of it if we have a shot of that. And I want to show the connections for this camera. So this camera has USB, and a lot of folks plug this camera in to use it with Zoom, video conferencing, for example. It also has SDI. It has DVI for quick video output, and then it also has Ethernet. So this is a camera. It's called the HuddleCam HD Simple Track 2. And I just want to kind of show you how the quality of it and how quickly and easily it can follow me. It actually uses a combination of motion tracking and facial tracking. So this camera is really great for if there's someone doing a TED Talk and you want to have a camera that's always tracking them. It's really popular for lecture capture and distance learning. And it's really becoming popular in broadcast and streaming when there's a single presenter. So this camera has 3G SDI. It also has USB 3.0, DVI, HDMI. This is a high resolution. This is the second generation of this camera, and it has a high resolution reference camera that controls the 20x optical zoom camera that's able to output 1080p at 60 frames a second. So this is our second generation camera. I think it adds so much great production value to our shows just by adding that additional amount of motion. It's like having a real camera operator in your production without having to actually pay and hire a real camera operator in your production. So been a big fan of this camera for a long time. We actually have two of these in our studio. I'll show you the second one quickly. And the second camera, that Simple Track 2 that we have, is set up a little differently. And a lot of people like to set these Simple Track 2 cameras up to capture like a whiteboard or a presentation space. And so we are seeing these cameras deployed in two different areas. So this is our camera that has a little bit extra headroom. You can see that this camera specifically would be really ideal for like capturing a whiteboard or, you know, a presentation space for a classroom. The other camera that we have is more set up at like a eye level camera, and that's this one we kind of use as our main stage camera. So just wanted to show you that. Mike, can you please show the wiring diagram of the whole studio? Because I just want to quickly start by that. Ask any questions you guys want, but I do have a producer here. Mike is our producer. He's producing this whole thing. Just thought it'd be cool to show you guys what you're seeing. We're outputting all of this into Zoom. I've got a wireless microphone, wireless in-ear monitor. We have 6 PTZ optics cameras in the studio. We have 2 auto tracking cameras. We've got a Z cam, which we'll show in a moment. That's one of our box cameras from PTZ Optics. We have the brand new HuddleCam HD Pro, which is now Zoom certified, and we'll show that off. We have a new joystick controller, which someone is going to win today. That's the brand new Super Joy. We'll show you next. We've got a super fast i9 computer with PCIe cards bringing in all the video inputs. And then I've got a presentation computer using NDI we'll show as well. So wanted to show that really quickly to give you high level kind of an idea of how we're producing all of this today. So
well, we already have a couple of questions from the audience that I think would be relevant now.
Yeah.
Do you have a camera that connects via HDMI? I use a Blackmagic, a 10 mini switcher as my interface and would like to use one as a second or third angle camera.
Yeah, so all of our PTZ camera models, I'll show this off with the Z cam that we mentioned really quickly. This is that close-up camera that's going to allow us to show really nice close-up views. This is our standard PTZ Optics camera. And you can see here it has PoE, power over Ethernet. It's got HDMI, and it's got 3G SDI. So these are our PTZ camera models with HDMI, but one that I'm going to show you in just a moment, this camera is only $299. It's Zoom certified, it's 4K, and it has an HDMI and a USB output. So this is a really great starter camera if you're using like an ATEM Mini. But yeah, we'll show a couple different HDMI cameras today.
Excellent. Does the auto track on the Huddle Cam have any effect on zoom or tilt, or mainly just pan?
So you have a lot of different capabilities for setting up the auto tracking camera. You can set it up to have zoom, tilt, pan, tilt, fold, pan, tilt, and zoom. Like for example, right now, if I start to come down, you're going to see it tilt a bit. Unless I've turned, yep, there it goes, starts to tilt. You can set it up to be able to pan. You can set it up to automatically zoom. I don't have the ability right now to show you the software for the HuddleCam HD Simple Track because we weren't planning for that. I could if we have time at the end. But the nice thing about this camera is you have the complete ability to to change the sensitivity of pan, tilt, and zoom. So you can set whether you want to have some extra head space so that if you're showing whiteboard and blackboard information. A lot of teachers and presenters want to make sure a specific amount of area is available while they're tracking. That's totally capable of doing so. And so it's just an automatic tracking camera. It can pan, it can tilt, it can zoom, and it can do a lot of other stuff that I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to go over everything, but this is just giving you an example of the sensitivity and how well it can track.
Excellent. I want to give you a couple more questions now, but I want to make sure you have time to give your presentation. Do you prefer NDI or HDMI/SDI? I'm guessing
that's a great question.
That's it depends kind of question, isn't it?
It is. If you've got the SDI and HDMI inputs, use them, right? If it's easy enough to use them, do it. Use NDI when there's no other way to get an SDI or HDMI connection because NDI is compressed, still looks great. Perfect when you can't get an HDMI or SDI cable, but SDI and HDMI is totally uncompressed. And so the compression does have a factor, it really does, but it only really is noticeable when you've got a lot of low light or things of that nature. When you don't have a perfect picture, that's when the compression starts to kind of show up. But usually NDI is totally fine.
All right. And the last question for now, and again, we're really going to make an effort to get to everyone's questions before the end of the presentation. John Chin says, we have a PTZ Optics 30X SDI tripod mounted on a balcony. The stage is about 75 feet away, but the camera shakes a lot when people walk by. Any suggestions for anti-vibration solutions?
Yes, Nigel B Designs creates a anti-vibration mount that you can use for PTZ Optics cameras that will solve that problem.
All right, let's hold the rest of the questions until a little bit later on. Let you show off some more stuff, and we'll come back later.
All right, so next we're going to show the brand new PTZ Optics SuperJoy. And this joystick controller, you have the chance to actually win this joystick, and it can control any PTZ Optics camera. It can control Sony cameras, Bird Dog cameras, New Tech cameras. It's really been well designed, and I just want to give you a little look at the interface, and I'm going to show you some really cool features that it has. This has been designed with our customers' requests in mind. And so you're not going to see hardly any of these buttons on other joysticks out there today. This joystick is really incredible. It starts with pan, tilt, and zoom speeds. So we'll show that off in a moment, but if you know what it's like to be a PTZ camera operator, you really want to be able to switch the speeds up, not just for manual control of pan, tilt, and zoom, but also speeds between camera presets. And a PTZ preset is when you zoom the camera into a specific position, save it, which we'll be able to do with this joystick, and then go to another PTZ position. Well, this now allows you to control the speed at which it moves between those positions, not to mention that it has all the great color correction and color matching features for red, green, and blue, white balance, all of that, focus, iris, all of that. But a couple really cool features I wanted to point out. One is called basic mode. And basic mode is if you're in a church or you have a volunteer and you don't want them to mess with all of the color settings, you can put it in basic mode and all they can do is simple pan, tilt, and zoom and presets. We've got a matrix mode that allows you to control 3 cameras with 3 presets. Again, thinking about volunteers, limited amount of camera control knowledge, making it easier for them. My favorite new feature is the custom buttons. And these 4 custom buttons can do any HTTP, TCP, or UDP command. So you can click a button and you can set up all your PTZ cameras for the day. You can start recording with vMix, and you can start live streaming with a single button. So this can control the TriCasters. It can control OBS. It can control vMix. It can control the Epiphan Pearl. The list goes on and on and on what you can now control with your joystick. So the example I'll give you is a church. You get into church, this can control up to 7 cameras, PTZ cameras at the same time. And you click a button, all of your 7 cameras go to their exact starting location. The record button starts to record, and then you start to stream. So this joystick is very powerful. It also has an HDMI output. And I want to show that over here at my secondary presentation space, because the HDMI output has really become popular. You can see here that when I click the HDMI output, it actually comes up on the screen that it's connected to. So as I switch cameras, it actually switches what is being output to the HDMI, and I can control the camera that I'm seeing. So that makes it super easy to just set up a little monitor for a camera operator anywhere in your space with a single, I don't know if I mentioned, this is a power over Ethernet setup. So that is the PTZ Optics Super Joy there. That's what shows up when there's no camera connected. And boom. So somebody's going to win this today. Power over Ethernet, HDMI, the ability, I mean, it really is a game-changing joystick. Show me a PTZ joystick that can also control vMix, OBS, you know, all of these different solutions. It doesn't exist, and it only costs $8.99. So we're really proud of our engineers who put that joystick together. What's our next product that we're doing, Mike? All right. So I mentioned this camera ever so briefly. This is our HuddleCam HD Pro, and it actually comes in 2 models. So let me show this up close and personal here. Again, this is the HuddleCam HD Pro. It's 4K. It has a USB connection and an HDMI connection. So again, great for an ATEM Mini with HDMI, but also just great to plug in your computer, use it with Zoom, use it with Skype, and I'm going to just jump over here. It comes with an IR remote control. And the reason why is because this camera features electronic pan tilt zoom. So the idea is we give you a really high resolution sensor. So there's a 4K sensor, but as you zoom in electronically, you have the ability to enhance your image without degrading the quality. So for example, if you're on a Zoom call, you know, you're at like 480 by 360 or something in that neighborhood, you can zoom in 4 or 5x without degrading the quality if you're starting with a 4K image sensor. So if you're using a 720p production, you can zoom in 3x, 3 times without degrading the resolution that you're using in your project. Now we wanted to take it a step further, and we wanted to build an NDI version of this product. So the NDI version is powered over Ethernet. You can also power it with a traditional power supply. But this camera can be controlled via the network. It's a super easy way to deploy a really affordable NDI webcam anywhere on your local area network. So we're really happy about these HuddleCam HD Pro cameras, and the price point just really came in at what we're happy with at that $299 price point. It also features wide dynamic range and a feature called auto framing. Okay. Are there any questions I should answer? Or should we keep trucking along?
Boy, there's lots of questions here. You want me to throw out a few to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. How does the SimpleTrack 2 camera respond to manual intervention when it's tracking?
So it doesn't respond well. You can easily turn off auto tracking and put it back into manual control. But while it's in auto tracking mode, it's supposed to be set it and forget it. You've got a 24/7 cameraman. I don't know if I mentioned this camera starts at $3,000 roughly. And it's supposed to be your cameraman 24/7. You don't need to touch it. If you want to take manual control, you can, but you need to turn off auto tracking when you do that.
Okay, can you control the presets on that camera with remote control as well? Ryan says, I'm thinking about a bounce out to a wide shot.
Yes, you can. So if we're talking about the Simple Track 2, you can call presets, and we're working on some awesome new functionality that is available to allow the camera to switch out of auto tracking into a wide shot, because that has been a request. And what you can do with the software is set up areas of your stage, and when you wave your hand in front of that area or walk in front of that triggered area, you can trigger new presets, because that's been popular. If a pastor is walking off stage to the left, to the right, you might want to pan to a wider shot, for example. And so as soon as they walk into a virtual box that's in the software, it'll pan to a new location. So a lot of great stuff that's in the latest videos that we put out for the auto tracking cameras.
Excellent. The next question is, how does it respond? And I'm not sure which camera he's referring to changing from one speaker to another with the auto tracking. You just talked about that a little bit, but what about speaker transitions?
So speaker transitions is an issue with this camera. It basically it doesn't know who is the right speaker, right? This is an incredibly affordable auto tracking camera in its price point. So it is designed for one person at the front of a classroom, at the front of a stage, the way I'm using it now in my presentations, but it's not designed to handle more than one person. It uses facial tracking and motion tracking. So if it loses my face, now it's still, following based on the motion that it's seeing, but it likes to see a face because that's how it tells the difference between a person and some other moving object. But if it sees two faces, it doesn't know which one to follow. So it is kind of like a single person auto tracking camera.
Excellent. Anderson Leandrin asks, can I use the PTZ cameras with a software-based solution such as Microsoft Teams or Zoom in order to create a private web conference or private web conferences?
You certainly can. So we recommend using either an NDI or a USB version of our cameras, which are available. If you're using an NDI camera, one thing a lot of people don't know is NDI cameras can have a virtual input. So you can bring the NDI source directly into Teams or Zoom. The HuddleCam HD Pro is Zoom certified, and that means that with a single USB connection, you can control this camera in Zoom. So if you have a Zoom Room, the Zoom Room iPad allows you to control it. And if you have a far end camera control, all the PTZ Optics and HuddleCam cameras support far end pan tilt zoom control in Zoom.
Excellent. Howard Drobner says, I saw a tally light on one of the cameras. Any way you
correct.
can do a quick show of how you have them connected and how they're controlled?
Mike, flip back and forth between that shot real quick. All right, did you guys see that? Do it again. It's going to happen quick because what happens is that the light turns on and then it turns off. Boom. Hopefully you guys could see that. Basically, these tally lights, which are all over our studio, you'll see them on every single camera in our studio. These are made by Tally Lights LLC. They're made in America in Michigan. Ted, who makes them, is a great guy. You can see another one over here. And if you click it real quick back and forth, Mike, I think they'll see the light pop on real quick. Boop, boop. See that, guys? That is a tally light. And these tally lights are amazing. It allows us to know which camera to look at, which camera is live, is someone on stage. And they are set up through vMix currently using the Tally Lights LLC systems. They work with TriCasters, with vMix. And I'm trying to get them to work with OBS too, but we'll see about that.
All right, good luck with that. Is it possible to use multiple tracking cameras? We already talked a little bit about how it doesn't do well switching from speaker to speaker, but once it is fixed on a speaker, is there a locking feature that you can manually employ so that it stays on? In other words, can you, and I guess this goes back to the question of how does it respond when you try to interrupt with manual controls? Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, so for example, using 2 at once. So we use 2 at once, and some of our higher end clients use 2 auto tracking cameras at once. And the reason why you'd want to do that is because you can set up different parameters. Like this camera, you can see, is giving me a lot of head room, and we've set it up for like a wider shot. So you can see literally my shoes to my feet as I'm tracking. And that's a nice shot. But our second auto tracking camera, as you'll see as we cut to it here, is more of like an eye level. So you can see me. I can really make like a personal connection to you if I'm a pastor or somebody presenting. So there's different uses for having multiple PTZ cameras that are auto tracking. And you're seeing it right now. Regarding a second person coming in, it does a pretty good job of tracking and knowing who's who. If there's a doorway, let's say, in the area that people are walking through, we support something called blocking zones. So if there's a projector behind you or something, you can block that motion out in the software. But again, it's really meant for a single presenter at a time. If you're putting together a PTZ camera system for your church or your production area, it's nice to just have that one auto tracking camera that you can cut to at any time, and it's going to be tracking the subject. So you've got some motion. You know, people are trying to do more with less today, and they're trying to put together a system where they have a single camera operator or a single production person. So having the camera tracked by itself really makes your job easier.
Absolutely. Got a couple questions here about the huddle cam. One is asking to see the quality of the huddle cam. I assume they mean the picture quality. I don't know if that's something we can do in this setting.
Mike may be able to bring that camera into our production while we're doing this. So I will see if he can do that. But let's do the next question. Mike will try to bring in a Huddle Cam Pro image. Yes.
Does the Huddle Cam HD have standard frame rates, wide angle, and or autofocus?
It has autofocus. It is very wide angle. It is meant to be a wide angle fixed focus camera. So everything is like in focus. Got one of those, doesn't do a bokeh. It's just got a really wide field of view with it. Everything is in focus, even, you know, up to like 6 inches. So when you're zooming in, it's not like an optical zoom where focus needs to change. It's digital zoom. It's 4K image that goes into a digital zoom in order to, you know, move, as opposed to like the camera I'm using now, which is optical zoom, and the optical zoom allows it to, you know, change focus all the time.
Right, and that you said the Huddle Cam has a 20x zoom. What distance is that good for?
So that's a great question. And Mike's trying to bring that camera in now. Were you able to do that, Mike, or no? So Mike's going to show the Huddle Cam HD Pro, and I will explain. So you can go up to 60 feet away because it's a 20x optical zoom. You can get a head and shoulders shot at about 55 to 60 feet away. Great. Mike's got the Huddle Cam Pro. Here it is. So it has built-in microphones. So that is one thing. Let me really quickly, Mike, I'm going to zoom it out for everybody. It comes with this remote control. So that is fully zoomed out. And then, oh, is that working? There we go. So it's got a real wide angle field of view, but then you can zoom in. And this is a Zoom call, by the way. So think about that, for example. Sorry, Mike, going all the way in on there for you. And you can set up presets with this camera as well. So we can set up a preset and then set up another preset. And it operates as if it was a PTZ camera. The NDI version also works. So I'll call some presets really quickly so you can see that. The NDI version works with vMix, with Wirecast, with XSplit. It's the exact same PTZ optics protocol that we use for our PTZ cameras.
Very cool. We got a couple comments in the chat regarding the video quality that our attendees are seeing. Just want to remind folks that we've got the camera feed coming from PTZ Optics into our Zoom, and then that's getting sent out to you. So I would assume the quality degradation that you're occasionally seeing is because of those extra steps in the process. Got a couple questions here about the SuperJoy. Can it control the Panasonic AWHE camera, and how many cameras can it control or can it have connected at one time?
Well, and one thing I wanted to mention, Eric, is that we are recording this in 1080p. So I do want to post this on our YouTube channel for folks to see the full quality, because Zoom definitely is probably less than HD.
Yep.
But this can 100% support Sony. It can 100% support PTZ optics. It can 100% support any NDI version 4 camera or greater. It can work with the Bird Dog cameras, actually, because those support Sony. But Panasonic, I am not 100% sure with. We are going through the process of testing everything right now, and I'm not sure if Panasonic has their own protocol or not. One thing I didn't mention about this joystick is not only does it support IP, but it also supports serial control. So I would be very comfortable saying it will support Panasonic over a serial connection. Over an IP connection, I wonder, I haven't tested it myself. If you want to buy one and test it and it doesn't work and send it back, we're totally fine with that. One of the great things about our company is we really work closely with our customers. And if you're using our product with the Panasonic, we want to help you do it. If it doesn't work out, we're happy to take the return. That's not a problem at all. And if it finds out that it does work with a Panasonic, let us know, and we'll put it on our compatibility list.
All right. I'm going to pass things back to you, Paul. We do have more questions, but we've got about 12 minutes left in Paul's session, so I want to make sure you have time to cover as many things as you can.
All right. What's our next product, Mike? Is it the EPTZ Z-Cam? Okay, the 12X Z-Cam. All right, so I want to show you guys this camera right here. This is a PTZ Optics Z-Cam. We have a range of box cameras, I call them. And these box cameras, here's the shot of it now. This is basically a static camera shot, but it's zoomable with 12X and 20X optical zooms. And these cameras have a 5-year warranty. They're 1080p at 60 frames a second. You're seeing right now the SDI video output. We've locked the focus to get like a perfect focus. And as you can see, we've put this camera on a slider. So for $7.99, you can get these sliders really affordably on Amazon. It gives you that really nice, beautiful picture for presentation. So I just wanted to show that. That's how we're creating these beautiful shots of the cameras on this table. There's that Simple Track 2 that we were looking at. And so I just wanted to show you kind of what's behind the scenes there. It's a great camera, SDI. You can actually stream directly with RTSP and RTMP. Great camera. What's next, Mike? The 30X. All right, so now we're going to show you the PTZ Optics 30X. So this is by far our most popular camera. It has 30X optical zoom. With 30X optical zoom, you can capture a head and shoulders shot of a presenter from up to 75 feet away. So people are installing these cameras almost up to 100 feet away. They have SDI, they have HDMI, they have IP control, they have power over Ethernet, they have serial control. You can see on this slider shot, maybe, Mike, that they've just got every connection you could think of. And they have some really awesome new features with the latest firmware. So PoE, NDI option, you can run audio into them, HDMI, the audio embeds into it, SDI, serial control, up to 1080p at 60 frames a second. Mike and I wanted to show you the full zoom capability, which is tough to do in this small space. But Mike's got it set up here. So I'm right now only about maybe 30 feet away from the camera. Gives you a little shot. So Mike, I think, let me see if I can find this camera. I can use my SuperJoy to see which camera is which is really nice. Coming out of the HDMI, there we go, I got it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in quickly. That was probably the highest zoom speed. I'm not 100% sure there. And then what I wanna do is I'm gonna use the SuperJoy to turn the zoom speed down to a slow speed. So you can see, because that would be kind of nice. Here's the slowest speed here. And just giving you an idea, you can pan, tilt, and zoom at the same time. But also it's kind of nice to be able to zoom in slowly. Ooh, got a little lost there. Let me zoom in a little closer to this one. So wanted to show the 30X and its ability to zoom in. And Mike, this transitions nicely because this is the next camera we're going to talk about. This camera is brand new, very excited about it. This is the PTZ Optics Z-Cam, but it's our electronic pan tilt zoom camera. And I should mention really quickly that the PTZ Optics cameras have brand new firmware. They're really the #1 selling PTZ camera in the industry, partially because of our amazing warranty. We have a 5-year warranty, but also because of the brand new features that we've been listening to our customers to create. Motion sync to make those beautiful sweeping pans, variable speed control. I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff, the focus lock, the focus range, a lot of stuff our engineers have been working on. But let me pull up this camera on my SuperJoy here. This camera, as you can see, is able to be operated just like a PTZ camera. And so that was one of the reasons why we wanted to show this with the SuperJoy, is because you can operate it and you can set presets with it. So if I set one preset here, I'll set another preset here. You can actually do jump cuts with this electronic pan tilt zoom camera, and it's only $4.99. It has 2 SDI outputs. I'm going to bring the camera over here, Mike. So I'm going to show the camera with the camera, if that's okay with you. It has 2 SDI inputs. So one is for the full view. The other is the electronic pan tilt zoom version. We ship it with a PoE adapter. It has an NDI version, if you're interested in using NDI. And it's got a super wide field of view, a 5-year warranty. It's rock solid. One of the things you may notice is that it has a tally light spot at the top. So it's actually got 4 of these nice little quarter 20 adapters. These are really popular in education and telemedicine. It's a great second camera to throw into your production at just $4.99 and have 2 SDI inputs for your production. What do we got next, Mike? Is that it? We got the mounts, right? The camera mounts? All right. So last thing I wanted to review with you guys is we make right here in Pennsylvania all of our camera mounts. So this is one of our wall mounts. You can see they're available in both white and gray. So I wanted to show that right over here. This is really well designed. It's powder coated steel. It has a mount so you can bring the cables in the front or the back. So these have, I think, a 5 or a 10-year warranty. They're very strong. And I wanted to show the ceiling mount as well. And you may have noticed a pole mount with our SuperJoy, our Simple Track 2. But this is the ceiling mount here. Again, this is flush mounted to the ceiling, white on white. We like to put white cameras on a white ceiling with a white mount, so everything looks nice and beautiful. We also have pole mounts so that we have basically mounts for every solution that you could want for PTZ cameras.
That is awesome.
Okay.
And we got a bunch more questions here. In fact, in the chat, there are people who claim to be drooling at the moment. But Brad Dixon is wondering, can you do remote camera shading with these cameras over IP?
Well, the SuperJoy is a great option for that, because the SuperJoy, as you may have noticed, and Mike, maybe we'll shoot to this shot real quick. You can see here that we have the ability to quickly shade red, blue, and green gain by clicking that button there. We can do the white balance, we can do the exposure, the iris, the shutter speed, all of that directly from a joystick. In order to get into the super nitty-gritty color shading stuff, you can do that over IP using our free PTZ Optics camera control software. So I forgot to mention that our PTZ Optics Mac and PC software is available totally for free, and it works with any PTZ camera. It's really popular and has a lot of those features for remotely controlling and color shading cameras.
Excellent. Bill Means is asking, what is the response curve like with the tracking? You talked a little bit about this, but he follows that up by saying, can you adjust it for more or less responsiveness?
Yes. So we call it sensitivity. And right now, the sensitivity I have a little bit lower than I personally like, but a lot of people said, hey, we don't want to see the camera moving so much all the time. So the sensitivity right now, we have it about medium. So you can see here, like I can even move a little bit, and it doesn't really track until I get a little bit more movement. And people like that because, you know, they don't want to see it like going left and right like crazy. But we have from 0 to 7 sensitivity, tracking sensitivity. And then we have, I can't remember the exact ranges, but pan, tilt, and zoom are all adjustable. You can also set a preset that sets the frame. So right now, it's going to keep me in frame, the frame that I have told it to. So that was one of the reasons why we have 2 different tracking cameras, because that way we have 2 different frames. So you can have kind of like a head and shoulder shot that kind of starts at like waist up. And then you can do that shot where, you know, over here we were seeing how like it's got the full body. So you can set different ranges for what it shows. You can disable tilt completely. A lot of people just want to go left and right. You can disable zoom, and all of those have parameters in which you can adjust to get it perfect for your space.
Excellent. Allison Davis says, our church has a PTZ Optics 12X SDI and 20X SDI cameras, and we use the Epiphan SDI2 USB 3.0. Lately, we've had problems with both cameras. They lose connection intermittently. Is there a better solution for a capture device, or should we give up on the cameras?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. And it sounds like if the video is dropping, then it is definitely a capture device issue. And I would check with Epiphan on making sure you have the latest drivers for their capture cards, and make sure that the camera resolution, so the resolution of the camera is set by the yellow dial in the back, and make sure that resolution is matching the resolution of your capture card, and that should fix the problem. So if you have it at 1080p 60, but you're only plugging the capture card into a USB 2.0 port, that's probably the issue. I'll be completely honest with you. You probably have a USB bandwidth issue. And what it is that if you are sending 1080p at 60 frames a second, that's 3 gigabits of data. What you should probably do is turn the cameras down to 720p at 30 frames per second. Reduce the bandwidth, because you may even have USB 3.0 capture cards plugged into USB 2.0 ports. Or you're using 2 USB 3.0 ports that share a single bus and there's limited bandwidth. So turn the resolution down on the cameras and see if that gives you a smoother connection, because you're having a USB bandwidth issue.
Excellent information. Malcolm Taylor is asking, can the Huddle Cam output USB and HDMI at the same time?
Yes, it can.
Simple enough. You mentioned you can have far hand control for the Huddle Cam HD Pro. Does that include the ability to set a preset on someone else's camera via the far hand control?
Well, far end camera control, there are a lot of ways to do it. What I was mentioning is that Zoom video conferencing, you can actually go into your Zoom settings and enable far end camera control. And what that allows people to do with any PTZ Optics or Huddle Cam HD camera is right-click your video, and it gives you pan, tilt, and zoom control from the far end through Zoom, which is great because that person could be anywhere in the world. Now, there are other ways to manage far end camera control, and you can actually do it with our free Mac and PC software. You just need to have the camera on an outside IP address or have the camera with dynamic DNS. So a lot of different ways to do that. Send us an email, paul.richards@ptzoptics.com, and I can talk to you through what would be the best far-end camera control solution for you.
Excellent. Bill Meems is asking, seeing that the PTZ Optics cameras work with Wirecast gear, does the SuperJoy also integrate with Wirecast's PTZ control features?
Well, it does. Now, the custom buttons on the PTZ Optics camera support HTTP, TCP, and other control protocols, and I am at this point have not found a way to use the custom buttons with Wirecast. There may be a way, and I need to look into it, but PTZ control in Wirecast is great, and you can set up different shots in Wirecast. But the SuperJoy doesn't have a direct integration with Wirecast. You would use it to control the cameras, and then Wirecast can also control the cameras. I need to work with Wirecast to see if there's some more integrations that I don't know about that are possible. I'm going to put that on my to-do list. As of now, the joystick is a great option with Wirecast, but I'm not sure if it can control Wirecast yet.
All right. Ryan Levy says, is there gen lock on your PTZ cameras? Is there a way to frame lock if using NDI from multiple cameras?
There is a way to synchronize the packets that are being sent. So the cameras do not have gen lock. Gen lock generally is a term that's used for like locking the frames of SDI or HDMI. On NDI with IP connectivity, the cameras support NTP servers. That's a time sync server that can be from your router or your internet connection, or it can come from Google. There's lots of these servers, time servers, and what you do is you take each NDI camera, and this works with RTSP streaming as well. You use that, make sure they're all using the same time sync server, and every single frame of video is time synced, so they all get delivered at the exact same time. NDI knows what to do with it, and every single camera is frame locked.
Excellent. We've got one last short question. Mark Gillespie says he's been trying to find the Huddle Cam on your PTZ Optics website. Can't find it. If someone could maybe pop a link in the chat to find that directly, or maybe you can tell them.
Thank you for that. I should mention HuddleCam HD is a sister company. So HuddleCamHD.com is a separate website. That's where you'll find SimpleTrack 2. That's where you'll find the HuddleCam HD Pro. In general, HuddleCam HD is for our plug-and-play USB video communications equipment. PTZ Optics is more for those SDI, NDI broadcast quality equipment, and that's how we kind of make the differentiation. It's the same company, same great support and warranty, but there's two different websites.